But right now, joining us to go all out on this story is sportswriter Josh Planos. Josh is back. He's joining us live from Lincoln, Nebraska. Josh, good evening to you there. Welcome back to the show.
Andre, thanks so much for having me.
Always a pleasure. We love having you here on Sports Desk. Josh, we've been waiting for this announcement for a while now, talking about his potential retirement even before he faced Yordenis Ugas. What was your initial reaction now that Manny Pacquiao has finally made this official?
While folks can quibble over timing and whether he should have hung up his gloves after the Thurman fight or after a victory in general, it does feel like Manny Pacquiao is going out on his terms, and that's such a rarity in boxing, where legends almost always overstay their welcome and experience crushing defeats on the way out. So I'm happy for Manny. I'm happy for his family, that he seems to be at peace with his decision and that he can pursue politics or whatever he desires moving forward.
I like that. Yeah, you're right. We're going out on his terms because we know the sport of boxing, and we've seen a lot of boxers and athletes in general leaving the sport because of injuries, and Manny just really simply called it quits because his personal decision, and he is running for a higher position here in the Philippines. Well, he has nothing left to prove as a boxer. He definitely will go down one of the grades. He is the only 8th division world champion, Josh, winning more than 60 fights in his long career. As we take a look at the screen, let's talk about the legacy that Manny Pacquiao will now leave and the kind of impact that he made on boxing. Earlier, we saw that social media, the tweet. Ryan Garcia said that Pacquiao has inspired him. And I'm sure a lot of young boxers were inspired because of Manny Pacquiao's amazing career.
Yeah, I mean, look at, the next generation of Filipino fighters that we just saw at the recent Olympics, ready to carry on the country's legacy in the sport. That's as much a testament to Manny Pacquiao's legacy as anything. This guy is a global icon. He's undoubtedly done probably more to grow the sport than just about any of his peers. And as you mentioned, Andre, that 26-year, 72-fight, 62-win career might never be replicated again. We almost certainly won't ever see an 8-division, 12-time world champion who raised a world title over 4 different decades, just given the amount that boxers are in the ring these days. But you know better than anyone, Andre, I'm not sure that there's a country more invested in a single athlete than the Philippines is with Manny Pacquiao. It was a singular relationship that opened the country up to so many people who now have a name to associate the country with. And that's a real testament to the kind of legacy that this man is leaving as he leaves the ring.
I don't know if you know that, Josh, or you've heard about it, but everything stops literally and figuratively here in the Philippines. Every time Manny has a fight, crime rates go down, traffic is not there. So he's just really a national treasure, Manny Pacquiao. This isn't the first time, though, that he announced his retirement, Josh. We both remember he did the same thing back in 2016. That was the year he was elected to the Senate. So let's say he does decide to come out of retirement again down the road. Let's say, do you think he has enough left in the tank for more fights? Because he did lose that last fight and looked a lot slower and not the same Manny Pacquiao that he used to be against Yordenis Ugas.
Have you seen his calves, Andre? I think Manny could fight tomorrow if he wanted to. He certainly didn't look his best against Ugas. No discredit to him, but it was alarming, certainly, that he seemed to lose his legs shortly after the 3rd round. But I don't know if that was just an off night or the expectation moving forward. But if he came back, I think he could still fight top-tier fighters. I just don't know if it would satisfy him to not be winning world titles. And sadly, that's where I think his situation would be if he were to re-enter the ring.
Maybe a Mayweather, Pacquiao, both coming out of retirement. Who knows? Maybe down the line. And then I'll visit you there. Let's watch that fight together. Okay, Josh, stay where you are. All right, grab a glass of water. We've still got a lot to talk about, my friend, because after the break, we'll shift our focus to the NBA. We still have with us sports writer Josh Planos joining us from Nebraska. And Josh, can you tell us more about this huge issue involving players and the vaccine mandate? So a couple of players don't want to get vaccinated.
Yeah, the short version, Andre, is that despite 90% of NBA players being vaccinated, the remaining 10% has the potential to cost teams championships and is an enormous issue for the league as a whole. Many have turned this line about being a personal decision, which, sure, But this is a public health crisis, and these decisions impact more than just you. So there are executive orders in New York City and California, like you mentioned, that specifically affect the Knicks, Nets, and Warriors because the venues in which those teams play require athletes to have received at least one dose of the COVID vaccine, if not the entire 2-dose, vaccination. And California players must be fully vaccinated to so much as enter the Chase Center. So while we have teams like the Knicks that are fully vaccinated, we have other teams like the Nets and the Warriors who are really kind of chewing their fingernails as we get closer to the start of the season.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, of course, Andrew Wiggins has made it clear that he won't get vaccinated because of his beliefs. Wiggins was, I think, present during media day of the Warriors, but Wiggins will be a huge loss for the Dubs here, who are looking to rebound and still be a championship contender, especially now that they're getting back, of course, the Splash Brothers, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and you got Wiseman there developing, and then Draymond. It's going to be tough. Of course, Wiggins is one of the starters from last season.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Andre, Klay Thompson will be back in the fold at some point in the season, which should alleviate some of Andrew Wiggins' workload. But we don't know yet when that will be or how quickly the team will ask him to carry his traditional load. Certainly wouldn't surprise me if Klay Thompson was kind of eased back into things. But Wiggins started 71 games a season ago for a reason. Yeah. And he had probably his best defensive season, probably his best shooting season overall since he entered the league. And only Steph Curry averaged more minutes per game than Andrew Wiggins on the Warriors last season. So losing him for 40-plus games would be devastating, especially given how thin the Warriors are on the wings this season and how, they're really trying to get Klay Thompson back up to speed. They really don't need to be working a man down at this point.
Well, another big name involved in this issue is Kyrie Irving. He wasn't with the team during media day, and he spoke to the media via Zoom, and Kyrie repeatedly asked for privacy when pressed about his vaccination status, saying it will be cleared up at the appropriate time. So hypothetically, if he's unvaccinated, what kind of impact will Kyrie's absence have on the Nets, especially as they try to bounce back here and try to make a run for the championship? They are a really tough contender in the East.
Yeah, it would be crushing. It would be a crushing loss to the Nets if they're forced to play without Kyrie in the team's 44 home games this season. That's a huge deal for any team, let alone one that enters the season as the odds-on favorite to win the championship, assuming, of course, that its roster remains intact. This is a team that nearly toppled the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks with like 1.5 of the 3 superstars that they had on the team last year. So they're certainly built to contend for the 2022 title, but losing Irving would be a significant blow and could swing both the conference and championship landscape.
Well, who do you see as the best fit now for, if we take a look at the Nets lineup, to step up in Kyrie's absence, if he will have to miss those number of games, a lot of home games? We saw James Harden handling the rock primarily as the point guard when Kyrie was down, but who else do you see stepping up here for the Brooklyn Nets?
Well, I think it goes without saying, right, that there's absolutely no replacement for a 7-time All-Star in the prime of his career. But you'd assume that Steve Nash, like you mentioned, Andre, would slide James Harden over to the full-time point guard position because he's used to running the show as he did in Houston, and certainly one of the most gifted offensive players in all of basketball at this particular time. But the team also acquired Javon Carter from the Phoenix Suns in kind of a under-the-radar move in the offseason. And he actually had a quiet, really successful shooting season, especially from the corners last year in Phoenix. So he shot a very high volume and a very high percentage. And he might be a good fit there in short spurts, of course. But, he's no Kyrie Irving, and I'm sure that he'd be the first person to tell you that.
Let's move over to the West, back to the West, and talk about the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion Williamson may also miss time, possibly even opening day, not because he's unvaccinated, but because he's dealing with that foot injury. The Pels are optimistic that Zion should be back by the regular season. Talk about this potential huge blow for the Pels. They already lost Lonzo Ball, but Zion, we know, as the face of this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite the bombshell, right? Delivered by Pelicans VP of Basketball Operations, David Griffin, at Media Day. None of us knew that this had happened. So this was quite the surprise. Zion Williamson suffering a broken foot is precisely not what the Pelicans need as they go into the season. Griffin did say that it should be good to go for the start of the regular season as far as Zion is concerned, but That remains to be seen. And optimism sells faster than Gucci this time of year. So let's pump the brakes on potentially penciling him in just yet. But this is troubling, right? I mean, this guy just had a knee injury a few years ago. It cut his rookie season short. And so much of his game is predicated on that explosiveness that you only get when you're healthy. So another lower body injury is certainly a cause for concern in New Orleans.
Well, we're not sure if he can't really. There's that never-ending debate if Zion should lose weight or not. But Josh, we have to talk about, man, this guy, Ben Simmons. We've been waiting for months for the Sixers. Will they trade him? Will they keep him? And the team has confirmed that, Simmons has requested for a trade. He wasn't there on media day. What do you think? It's taking so long for the Sixers to seal a deal for Simmons. I don't even see a team picking him up. But what do you think of this whole Ben Simmons saga?
Well, it's certainly a delight for folks who are interested in the NBA melodramatic cycle that we get so often. I will say, I think he would be a fantastic fit in Denver. They just extended Michael Porter Jr., which is typically a sign that you're both, confident in a player, but also a lot of the time people will extend a player and then trade them because, they're on the books for a number of years. So I think he would fit in great there. But it's just another day and another new story. And unfortunately, we seem to be at an impasse with the 76ers management wanting a whole enormous suite of picks and potentially active players in return for him. And of course, Ben Simmons is not helping his trade value by demanding that he be removed from the roster as soon as possible. So it's kind of that push and pull situation here, unfortunately. And I guess we'll have to wait to see how it plays out.
Why can't he just shoot that ball, man? Well, Josh, thank you again for joining us. As always, a pleasure talking to you about sports, my friend. Stay safe there. Again, we just had sportswriter.
Thanks so much, Andre. Stay safe.
Josh Planos, all the way from Nebraska.